Hello, BookTube. We're upright again. We're going to continue with this penguin tour of this weird side annex bookcase that appears to have very little rhyme or reason to it. So we'll see what we encounter in this next shelf, starting with this one. This is Dangerously Zones. The Penguin translation by P.W.K. Stone. I believe that translation is old. Yeah, 1961. This is a newer Penguin trade paperback, but it's an older translation. 1961. Then the next one, the next one's my favorite, Daniel Defoe, Journal of the Plague Year. A weird combination of fiction and nonfiction, totally gripping. Not as well known, of course, as his his big oft-taught things. Although I have seen this taught in schools. I've dealt with young undergraduates who were reading this. It's important and macabre. Fantastic. All right, this is a Daniel Defoe that people usually don't get taught. They usually don't read this. This is his great travel log, tour through the whole island of Great Britain. Defoe is an amazing character. He hasn't had a soup to nuts biography that does him justice in decades, and really needs one. A nice 900-page whopper about every aspect of his life would be great, because he did all things in his life and hit rock bottom, socially, romantically, politically, health-wise, and also soared near the heights of his literary professions. So this is a fantastic book, but I'd be willing to bet most people have never heard of it, and certainly not many people have read it. That's a shame. This next one looks new. Oh, okay. Memoirs from Beyond the Tomb by Chateaubriand. A silly, lugubrious, but extremely readable memoir / collection of personal impressions. Really, really good, but hard to classify. It's an extremely French book. Oh my. Okay, this is a penguin. This has been reinforced a million times because I read it all the time. This is Daniel Carlin's anthology of Victorian verse that has just so much good stuff in it. The first time I got this, I went straight to the authors I really knew. And then all the rest of the times that I've gone, I've reinforced it many times, so it's not pretty anymore. But I've used this so much that all the times that I went to it after the first time, I went to the authors that I didn't know quite well, because this has a generous collection of both, which is great. But again, it doesn't belong here. It belongs on a shelf with poetry, so that I know how to find it. What have we got here? Oh, okay. This is Clark Ashton Smith, sort of a prototypical fantasy author. The Dark Idolian and Other Fantasies. This has a translation by S.T. Joshi, and it's probably the only collection of him that's readily available in print now. Let's see. Colonial travel narratives. I think we saw something close to this, a kind of version of this with American writing about place, a much bigger book. This is just colonial travel narratives, and they are amazing because despite the widely varying writing abilities of the people involved, the world they're describing is a weird one. It's not one that Americans would recognize now, no matter where they live, except you would recognize it in the literature, Hawthorne, Washington Irving, and you would also recognize it in the scandals. When you read the world that these colonial Americans were traveling through, that's mostly dark, that's mostly cold, that's extremely dangerous, forbidding things around every tree and rock, you start to understand the Salem witch trials and all sorts of other hysterias a lot better. Just fascinating. When I read this book, I forget when I did. When did I read this? No hint. But I think this is a later gift. I read this when it first came out, and then got rid of it. And I think I got it back again. Yeah, this first came out in 1994, and that's when I read it. And the impression that I came away with was not so much a lasting impression about the writing itself, but about the world that's conveyed accidentally in all of these pieces. And it's the same world. So that was weird. This one has a pub sheet in it, so it's got to be fairly recent. Oh, okay, all right. This is the Praetorians. This is a gritty, in-your-face war novel that's a sequel to something we saw already somewhere else on this miscellaneous shelf, which was the Centurions. They should be together. obviously they should be together. This is the book sequel. But I'm not putting any of these back exactly where I found them. So I'm going to go over this whole bookshelf. So these things won't stay true. Okay, this is also a new version. This is When You Are Old by W.B. Yeats. This is a lot of his early stuff, his early plays and poems. This is a relatively new Penguin collection. 2015. So before we knew each other, but still recent as far as the Penguin goes. The next one's all beaten up. Oh, okay. This is Aphra Behn, who was the first woman to make her way as a writer, specifically as a playwright. But this is not a play. This is love letters between a nobleman and his sister that dates from 1685. No, it's later than 1685. This is the Penguin editor calls it arguably the first novel, the first long novel in English. Her witty roman à clef in 3 volumes is set in the tumultuous years surrounding the death of King Charles II. A heady mix of eroticism, sex, and politics, it concentrates on a sensational aristocratic scandal of the day, the seduction of Henrietta Berkeley by her sister's husband, Lord Grey, a notorious libertine, rebel, and intimate of King Charles's son, the Duke of Monmouth. I don't know who would read Aphra Behn today, and if they did, they'd read her plays. I don't know. Well, again, the thing I love about Penguin is that they don't count on an audience; they count on their mission rather than on an audience. They don't keep one eye out for the main chance, and I find that very refreshing. Okay, all right. Speaking of not caring about finding a buying audience, this is a Penguin classic with the military statues of the Duke of Wellington. I remember when this came out. This had to be around 2012. 2013, something like that, 2014. And I remember when it was announced, when I saw it in the listings, and I thought, oh, come on. I mean, I have praised, in this little series of ours, I have praised Penguin's adventure spirit, how they'll sometimes just pick a book that doesn't look like it could possibly be considered a classic and slap the Penguin Classic label on it and try and, I guess, re-examine it. And I remember thinking, oh, come on. I'm willing to follow your adventurous spirit a long way, but the military dispatches of Wellington, and I was right. But anyway, it was still fascinating to read, all collected in one volume like that. Oh, wow, okay. This has to be new as well. Recent, anyway. 2013. This is Richard Jefferies. This is just, he went out walking in the countryside. He liked being outside with nature. Much more than he liked being with human beings. And this is just his account. It's wonderful rural writing. It's had many, many editions, but this one, I'm not sure why they gave it this cover. I mean, I'm all in favor of one of my people on the cover, but I would much rather have had a full-color picture of the English countryside. It would be much nicer, but it doesn't matter. This is, for those of you who like nature writing, it's a thing to put on your list. Let's see. Okay, all right. This is a Penguin classic of Joseph Conrad, Victory. Why it's here, I have no idea. It should be with the fiction of its period. In case, I don't know. Would I ever be sick enough to contemplate rereading Victory by Joseph Conrad? I'm not sure there is such an illness. But you never know. It could happen. Oh, what's next here? It's much thinner anyway. Oh, The Water Babies. Charles Kingsley, The Water Babies. A classic. An absolute classic. One of those Peter Pan type classics that anybody can read of any age. I seem to remember this having illustrations, but I'm not seeing any. Oh no, it does. Yeah, there's a baby with a dragonfly. Just a classic. I don't know that I want it in this edition. I would probably want it in an illustrated edition, but I'll take what I can get for now. Then Jacob Riis, How the Other Half Lives. Groundbreaking reporting about the poor. Wow. Okay, so this was done. Frida? No. Just once again going at packages. Oh, God. But anyway, this is, or actually, that might be packaging. It might be okay for you to eat that. If it's just cardboard, you can go ahead. We'll figure it out. She'll figure it out. He was a friend of Theodore Roosevelt. He was a friend of, he did a searing expose on the slums of New York City at a time in the late 19th century when the up and coming citizens of New York City, the ones who were building huge mansions all over town, liked to forget how the other half lives. And it wasn't the other half. The whole point of the book is that it was the other 90%. Gripping reading, especially now. More so now than probably since it was written, because the very areas that he's describing in this book are quickly gentrifying into the playgrounds of the obscenely rich. There are huge chunks of Manhattan where a normal person with a normal salary can't live anymore. And there are islands under siege. By the end of this century, they'll all be gone. Anyway, let's see. Oh, okay. All right, this is the Penguin Classic of the Federalist Papers. Very nice. I don't know. I really hope. I've never seen it, but I hope that Penguin makes a collection of the Anti-Federalist Papers, which are also great and don't have nearly the circulation that the Federalist Papers do. It's another volume. It's about this size. It'd be nice if they did. I'll have to look and see if they do. But I certainly don't have it. And this one has a pub sheet in it. Oh, Tales of the Marvellous and News of the Strange. This is a Penguin collection of very old Arabic myths and legends. Older than, in many cases, older than the Arabian Nights. And every bit is great to read. So wonderful. Discovered in a single ragged manuscript in a library in Istanbul. This is the earliest collection of Arabic stories, most of which have never been read in English before. Classic Penguin, breaking ground and entertaining and instructing along the way. And then we get to the last volume on this shelf. What is the last volume on this shelf? Multatuli? Max Havelaar. I don't know this book at all. Don't know how it got there. It's translated by Roy Edwards. Max Havelaar, a Dutch civil servant in Java, burns with an insatiable desire to end the ill treatment and oppression inflicted on the native peoples by the colonial administration. Max is an inspirational figure, but he is also a flawed idealist whose vow to protect the Javanese from cruelty ends in his own downfall. In Max Havelaar, Multatuli, which was a pseudonym for Edward Dewis Dekker, vividly recreates his own experiences in Java and tellingly depicts the hypocrisy of those who gained from the corrupt coffee trade. Sending shockwaves through the Dutch nation when it was published in 1860, this damning expose of the terrible conditions in the colonies led to welfare reforms in Java. Okay, all right, great. All right, so that is our next shelf. We only have one more to go. And then we'll be done with this annex, and then we'll have to see where we go from there. I'll probably take a day or two off from Penguin shelf tours in order to organize this bookcase. I don't want these books on the floor. I don't want anything on the floor in this room. I don't want any piles that I just get used to and ignore. But we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.